I don't think you're going to get too far, especially in industries like we're in, without having those foundational skills and coming from the bottom and working your way up.
This is the Construction Veteran Podcast. Construction Veteran Podcast. Connecting and celebrating veterans in construction. Now, here's your host, Scott Friend.
Welcome back to the Construction Veteran Podcast. I'm Scott Friend. I am stoked to bring you guys somebody who's very well known in the welding community, Stephanie Hoffman. We go through her story about becoming a soldier and going on to become very successful in the welding industry. Let's dig into it. Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I appreciate you doing this. So Stephanie and I haven't had the privilege of meeting in person yet, but I took a chance after watching a show on Netflix, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, and reached out to some folks and found out Stephanie is a fellow vet. And so I thought it'd be really cool to get her on the show. She's got a really interesting background we'll get into. But Stephanie, before we kick it off, tell me a little bit about where you're from and what branch you served in.
So I'm from a little town called Forked River, New Jersey. It's right on the Jersey Shore, like the central part of Jersey on the shore there. And I was in the U.S. Army. I was an intelligence analyst.
Very cool. And how long did you serve?
I did 4 years and then 4 years in the inactive reserve, and I got recalled once.
Oh no! Uh-oh. So you got recalled this was during an active war, or
Yeah.
what time frame was this?
I got recalled. It was kind of a nightmare. My daughter was, I think, 2.5, 3 months old, and we had to get. It was a nightmare.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. So that would have been. Was that during Iraq?
It was for Afghanistan.
Okay, man,
Yeah.
what a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that hopefully that program has gone by the wayside.
I
For
think
now, at
so.
least.
Yeah, I know. It was a big stink because I didn't have anybody for my daughter, to take care of her because I wasn't married to her dad and stuff. And then we had split, and he really didn't have a job or anything going for him in life. And my dad was almost dying at that point, and my mom, she couldn't, handle it. She was working and everything else, and yeah, it was a disaster, and it was all going on right around Christmas time, and it's awful.
Man, when it rains, it
But
pours. Golly.
yeah, so we got through that, and I didn't have to end up going to that, but it was a lot. It was terrifying. I'm a single mom. My daughter is like 2.5 months old, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you gotta come. You gotta report here as like a couple days after Christmas or something crazy. And you gotta be in Arizona, in Fort Huachuca on this day." And I was like, what am I gonna do? I'm like, I'm just gonna bring her with me and see what they do. But luckily, I didn't have to do that. But yeah, it was not a fun experience when you think your time was done, and then all of a sudden they're doing things like that to you. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, so my first deployment was, let's see, that would have been 2007. And I can remember meeting a bunch of people that the same thing happened to them. Like one Marine that was with us, I think he said he was like washing dishes in his kitchen, and some Marine walked up in uniform and basically told him he'd been recalled. What's funny is most of the people I met were, I mean, not that they weren't critical, but they were kind of serving in roles that they could have farmed out to a civilian.
Yeah.
One guy was retired from his military service and his civilian career, and he got recalled. I don't know if there's truth to that, but that's what he told us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
You are, man, let me go down the rep sheet. So you're mother, wife, golfer, welder extraordinaire, and now we find out a little bit about your veteran background. So how do we, man, I don't even know where to start with you, Stephanie. So what are you doing right now in the industry?
So now I work for Miller Electric. Yeah. So now I'm the managing kind of director of a new welding application and training lab here in the Northeast. So I cover the entire Northeast.
Oh, cool. So do you get to play with all the new fun toys like the AI welding and stuff like that?
So I do. I get to do it as much as I want. So my
Okay.
role is
You got your little
so
playground.
yeah, my role is kind of more for like on the business development strategy and sales support side now. It's not so much the hands-on welding stuff that I've been used to in my career. I actually tried to get out of welding altogether not too long ago, and that didn't happen. I got bored pretty fast, and then ended up with Miller. So, but I wanted to shift gears a little bit because I was finishing up my MBA in engineering management, so I wanted something that was going to be a little bit more aligned with like business strategy and development and stuff like that. And this kind of came up, and it was kind of a perfect fit because when everybody found out that I had sold my businesses and left the American Welding Society as well. Everybody and their mother was offering me different opportunities, but a lot of them, they sounded great in the beginning, and then they all started to fall back to a lot of like content stuff and, hosting this and going to these things. I was like, I don't want to be doing this stuff anymore. I have more to offer the industry than just, recording videos and stuff and supporting content wise for companies. So I told everybody no and held out, and I thought it was probably just going to be just a lot of golf in my future. And then this came up, and I've been super happy with it. So I've been there for 6 months now.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
because for a while there, so I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your time with the American Welding Society, you played a big role traveling
Mhm.
around and like introducing people to the industry. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess my official title was the program manager of workforce development, but really what I was kind of a national spokesperson for them. I did at first it was an 18-week-a-year tour, and then it was a
Jeez.
lot between my fabrication stuff that running that business, and then eventually I opened up a welding school, and then doing the tour on top of it. They were nice enough to peel it back to 14 weeks. But the tour was 14 weeks, but then there was other events, that I'd be asked to support and go to. So it was a lot of time traveling, and so yeah, so I was just kind of promoting careers in welding, engineering, manufacturing, anything like that. And I did that for 6 years.
During that time, did you see like a big, not push maybe, but did you see the industry maybe start turning towards getting more people in, getting younger kids interested in the industry at all?
Yeah, there's been. So I always laugh whenever I talk about this. When I started, I've been in the industry over 2 decades now. And when I started, it was kind of like a place for all like the burnout kids with no future. You ended up at the vocational school, and I was the first female to graduate my VOTEC program. And it was a big deal for me to go to that program. They actually didn't even want me in there because they were like, oh, we don't have a bathroom for her to get changed in. And like, like really, really kind of silly excuses. And so I ended up getting into that program, excelled there, and when I first started getting into the industry, everybody would just basically laugh at me when I would go into these interviews and stuff. And it was, they would purposely do stuff to see me struggle or fail in an interview for a weld test and stuff. And I was super new, naive, didn't know, wasn't super confident on equipment and machines and like background settings and things like that. So I just expected them to like kind of have it ready for me to go, and that wasn't the case. And now, fast forward, 10, 15, now almost 20 years later, and it's been this renaissance of promoting the trades, not just for young girls to get involved, but just anybody in general, because now they have this incredible skills gap, between all these people retiring, and now the people that were kind of mid to lower level employees are getting promoted at an accelerated rate into those supervisory leadership roles within this industry, and there's nobody to kind of backfill those positions. So some of these people are wearing multiple hats. So just similar to like World War II, any of the big wars and stuff, where hey, all of a sudden these the geniuses, they go, oh well, I have a great idea, we got to tap into the women now, like all of a sudden during World War II, women are welders and doing this. And they're capable, right? And then for decades we weren't capable, and now all of a sudden there's this mega demand again for skilled labor. So now they have to do the same thing they did back then. So I always kind of laugh. So there's definitely been a huge push, and I've been a part of a lot of initiatives where it's like, okay, how can we get the younger generation? How do we fill that skills gap? And sometimes I get a little annoyed because it's always like about being a girl, and I hate that. I hate that so much. It's not about being a girl. It's just about having passion and pride in your work and having work ethic, right? And how do we make that appealing to young kids nowadays? So working with a lot of organizations to kind of change the narrative a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree with you as far as like the rapid growth as far as like younger folks in the industry. I've been in the industry for a while now too, and I see all these apprentices come out, and within like 3 years, these folks are running jobs, and
Yeah.
it's just wild.
Yeah.
Now, whether they're capable or not, I'm not sure because that's not a 3-4 years to get all that
Yeah.
knowledge in to run large work.
Yep.
But it's funny you talk about them trying to screw up your test because kind of jokes on them. You basically had to force yourself to learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you're probably much better skilled
Yeah.
than those guys were when they became
The
foremen.
best is when I've had there was this guy, I'll never forget him. I literally left there and I was like, maybe I'm just gonna go be a hairdresser or something, you know. And I left there and I called my instructor at the time and I was like, why did you send me here? Like was this supposed to be a joke? Like I don't understand why you did this to me. And I didn't want to be like the boss's daughter kind of thing, working for my dad and his company. And years later, the same dude is calling me, begging me to come work and just like do side work for him or have my company, do support him, or can you send me any of your students, and I would just like laugh and just like, yeah, yeah, I'll be there at 7. See you there, and never show up. It's like totally screw him over every chance I could.
Wow.
Because it's like, F you. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was probably
Yeah.
that was one of my greatest accomplishments was telling that guy
Yeah.
to,
That's awesome.
to bend
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. So without going into too much detail of like the story of how you got into it, because I think Jason did a really good job over at Arc Junkies, good buddy of yours,
Mhm.
about how you kind of started in this. But can you give us a quick snapshot of kind of how you even got interested in welding?
Yeah. Oh, my dad ran a paving heavy construction company, and just going to job sites with him, always enamored with welders. He wasn't a welder himself, but being a daddy's girl and wanting his attention, I just saw that. And then one day he let me kind of work in the shop, and they gave me a couple of like stick electrodes or hard facing rods. I don't even know what it was. And I just started burning rods. And next thing I know, I found out that I could do it as like an elective. It was still when, metal shop was in, I feel like I'm dating myself now. I'm saying metal shop was in high school.
Oh, I had it too. Don't. I think they're bringing it back, which is
I like,
good. I
yeah.
see V schools coming back.
Yeah. And then I went off to the vocational school, and yeah, and I just kind of did it ever since. And it was funny when I joined the military. I originally wanted to go into the Air Force, but I had some tattoos at the time, and it was taking forever for them to get back to me for the waivers for my tattoos. So I joined with the Army as an intel analyst, and I picked that job just because it had the highest sign-on bonus. But my ASVAB scores were so high that I only got like I was like it was intel analyst, linguist, cryptologist, and this was when like cryptologists and linguists, you were still able to do that as a like somebody coming in. Now I think you can't even like enlist as one of those MOSs. Um, and then also UAV operator. In hindsight, I wish I would have picked UAV operator. But my brother, who he retired after 21 years, he was a master sergeant in the army. He was like, "Oh, be an intel analyst. It'll transfer really well into private contract work." So I was like, "All right, cool. It's got a big bonus. I'll do that." I got in, and they're like, "Here's a laptop." I'm like, "I don't know how to turn this thing on." But
That's
I
awesome.
wasn't allowed to do any like mechanical jobs when I went into the military. So I stopped welding for like a half a second. But then as soon as I was stationed in Korea, as soon as I get over there, I start becoming friends with like some of the interrogators and then some of the mechanics and stuff there. And then they're all like, "Oh, can you weld this? Can you show us how to set this machine up? Can you do this?" So it found me even over there. And yeah, so I've always kind of just kept going back no matter what I tried doing. I always found myself back in welding. And then as soon as I got out of the military, it was literally I tried applying for Intel jobs and nothing was biting. It was probably because my resume was total garbage. And yeah, and here I am, still a welder all these years later.
Yeah. So they didn't even offer you like an engineer spot
No.
or anything like that?
No, at that time, it was so needs of the Army after 9/11. So, like, the fact that you gotta remember too, when people are in, like, high war times, a lot of the people that are enlisting are coming from lower income backgrounds, right? That's
Yeah.
typically the large pool of people joining the military, and they're just not scoring those types of scores often on the ASVAB. So I got a plethora of just the nerdiest jobs out there. And I remember, like, I was like, you're starting to meet all the people that you're going to be working with and stuff, and they're all like, oh yeah, we play World of Warcraft and we play this video game and that video game, and I'm like, I don't know anything. I'm not one of
Oh
you
no.
people.
And
So,
nothing in common.
I didn't really have a lot in common. That's why I just like ended up like, I met one person who was like, oh, this person is into building Jeeps or this. And then I just, I found myself, back to the welding and fabrication and stuff like that, even though that's not what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did.
So,
Um,
yeah.
so you got out and you had a little bit. How long were you welding before you enlisted?
By that time, gosh, 6 years at that point, I was already
Okay, so
welding for. Yeah.
you had a pretty robust background then. And
Yeah.
so did that make it easier when you got out? It sounded like you already knew you wanted to go back to that trade, or
Yeah.
you said you applied to a few jobs, but did you kind of always have in the back of your mind like, I want to go back to welding, I want to go back to fabrication?
No, I don't think I did. I didn't know what I wanted to do back then because, when I left, my actual thoughts were I was going to stay in the military for a career. And I ended up having my daughter, and just, long-term care plans and stuff just weren't in the cards for me. Like, I didn't feel like I had somebody if I had to, like, do deployments, or if I, in the unlikely chance as an intel analyst that something catastrophic happened to me, that, she would be in good hands. Not that, like, my mom wasn't capable, but, she's older and she was still working, and I just couldn't put that on her or my younger sister. Both of my brothers were in the military and deploying all the time, and I just couldn't do that, and I couldn't trust her father, unfortunately, and yeah, so it kind of changed my outlook on what my career was going to look like, I guess. And then when I got out, I just went right back to where the money was, and that was welding. I had to do something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people in that situation, maybe not with kids, but I mean, I know when I got out, I wasn't 100% sure. I kind of fell into this just because I met some people and it worked out really well. And obviously I stuck with it. But I think there's more people kind of in that situation that I don't know what I'm going to do. I
yeah.
can't find work. I'm just going to take kind of whatever comes.
Hmm.
And then there's a lot of success stories like yours. Well, obviously it led to something huge,
Yeah.
which is great. But so you got out of the service, and about how long was it until you got back into welding?
Gosh, 3 months, 2 months.
Oh wow,
It wasn't long at all. Like, as soon as I got out and I was back home, just people started calling, asking if I wanted to go work here or work there. And that's actually where I first, one of the other, that's kind of how I've got into education at first too, is because my old welding instructor called me and was like, hey, do you want to be the TIG instructor, like the, specialty alloys and stuff like that instructor here at this program? And I was like, yeah. And it was, easy hours, Monday through Friday, and done by 1:30. So I did that for a little while, and I caught the educator bug there, and then went back into, like, industry, and after I kind of got my footing there, and I ended up getting my degree in education, and then became a welding instructor a couple of years later. So, but I was a pipe welder most of my career. Um,
oh cool,
yeah, so I did a lot of, like, pressure vessels, hydraulic repair, anodized aluminum pipe in the yachting industry. So for a big part of my early career, I was in more boat and yachting magazines, and so I wasn't anything
wow,
welding related.
it's awesome.
So yeah.
So here's a question: why welding? So you said your dad had a paving company, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why, of all the trades, what was it about welding that really stuck out for you?
Oh gosh. Honestly, I think it was the challenge. I was always kind of like a tomboy too, and I'm, like, heavily competitive. And the second people started kind of saying, "Oh, you can't do that. You don't want to do that. Don't do that." that's when I was like, I think I want to do that. I want to keep trying. I want to keep doing this. And then, getting into the program and seeing how good I was at it, like so fast. Like I was getting I got a couple of 6G certifications on specific materials faster than my welding instructor got them. Like he was failing them and I was getting them first rip. And that's a really hard test to pass. And, I'm like a junior and senior in high school getting those certifications. And I think it was just, everybody kept saying that I guess too, like just the thought of being a welder, people just kind of always thought it was like a dead end or like, it's just like some type of skid. And I just kind of like stuck with it and just kept opening up new opportunities and new opportunities and meeting people. And now I have a pretty large network of people. And even when I tried to get out of it recently, I still found myself back in it. I just
Yeah.
love it. I don't know what it is about it. It doesn't always like it's not a one-way street. I think like a lot of times vocational programs are kind of paved to be you're going to go out there, you're going to learn a trade and you're going to work for somebody. That's not the way it has to be. You can work for somebody, build some skills up, then you can work for yourself. And then you can offer your services to those people that you are working for. And then you can go and turn it into like, so like if you look at my career, I went from, being the bottom of the barrel to, moving up in different industries. So I went from, pipe welding to education to consulting to owning two different businesses, marketing, and then all of a sudden now you're getting marketing skills, you're getting, strategy and strategic development type skills that you're building out, financial skills. And now this whole like, catalog of skill sets that you're kind of collecting and that's worth something to some companies. And I started to figure that out quite quickly. And, yeah, and I mean, so it's not a one lane highway here in any of these trade skills industries. It's just, having the knowledge and the foresight to be like, hey, I can take these skills. These are worth something to somebody. I don't always have to be, the guy digging the ditch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm real big on trying to expose people to, yeah, you might be digging that ditch for a little bit, but there's not just in like management or consulting, but there's all these different aspects of the industry too. Like you might end up getting into quality control or
Exactly.
scheduling or
Yep.
safety or, there's so many different paths that you can take. And that's what I really love about our industry is that, or like business development, like you're doing, there's all these different roles that you can go into. But I think I'm not alone in saying this is that the people that have kind of walked the walk already get a lot more respect, a lot more
Mhm.
work because hey, I've done that. I've
Yep.
been there. So I can speak intelligently to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and
And
you definitely need that. I don't think you're going to get too far, especially in industries like we're in, without having those foundational skills and coming from the bottom and working your way up. Sometimes it just
yeah.
comes with a different layer of respect.
Yeah. And I try to encourage folks like, man, maybe you get out and you try welding and 6 months to a year into it. Okay. I'm not a fan of welding. Okay. Well,
Mhm.
there's a myriad of other trades that you can get into
Mhm.
that are
Yeah,
still can be very profitable, especially like you said, start your own business. And
yeah,
really that's where a lot of the money does come from.
yeah.
If
Eh,
you want to get, uh, do really well financially, but
Right.
at the same time, you don't have to do that because there's people within 3, 4, 5 years of their career that are making very good money and supporting their families.
Yeah. And I always tell people, like when I used to be an instructor, I would tell people, you don't have to be good at everything in this industry. Like just recently, I went out to Miller headquarters and I started getting some advanced MIG process training. So, like on our AccuPulse, VersaPulse, HD MIG, RMD, all these, outside of short circuit welding, which a lot of like home hobby MIG welders, like that's the process you're using, right? Um, and I don't consider myself a very good MIG welder. Like I can do it, I can make it look good. I don't like doing it, but then when I got into these advanced like heavy manufacturing processes, I'm like, wow, like there's a specific talent to this. Like the speed, all that is so different than what I'm used to with like I would consider it a slower process of welding with the short circuit, right? And you know you don't have to just be that. Like you could go if you're really good at TIG welding, you can just TIG weld. Or if you're really bad at all types of welding, you can get into welding sales if you really love the industry. There's sales, right? There's
Yeah.
there's like you were saying, there's QA/QC. You can go be an inspector, or, do quality type stuff. Like there's lots of other. You could be a welding engineer, right? There's lots of different avenues within the industry that kind of all support each other. So, if you have an interest in something, you can still find different ways that your skill sets might apply better.
Yeah. No, well said. And that's just one trade. I mean,
Yeah.
to liken it to the service, you've got like the boots on ground. You can think about the army, like everybody's basically supporting the infantry. If you want to look at it that way, like the
Yeah.
front line, right? And there's a lot of those support roles, but it takes that big machine to really keep the infantry moving. And it takes this big machine to keep the welders burning rod.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they need all those support folks. So there's so many things that you could do within the industry. So I would just try to tell people, man, see what you like, see what you're interested in. Try for a little
Hmm.
bit, doesn't work out. There's just so many other options out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is kind of a loaded question. I don't think there's any wrong answer, but are there any things that you picked up from your time in the service that you think might have helped you along your journey?
Oh yeah. Thick skin. Um,
Okay, that's
I
fair.
think, just dealing with different types of people, that definitely helped. I built my confidence to be on my own, which I didn't have before the military because I never left my house. I not left my house, but I never left my hometown really. So like being out there and being stationed in like South Korea, for instance, like you're on your own out there. You're trying to talk to your family, and it's like 13-hour time difference, right? You're not even on the same page as them half the time throughout the day, right? So that kind of built me up. But then the thick skin part comes from when I was in the military as an analyst. I dealt a lot with like human trafficking, and to be 18, 19 years old dealing with those types of that type of reality. I think that kind of builds up a certain layer of skin that most people don't have. Like I said, the confidence to talk to people as an analyst, and then I'm showing up and I become the G2 sergeant major's assistant. I'm dealing with like generals and crazy stuff. Like, help build my confidence, public speaking skills, definitely as an analyst. And then when it comes to like my business approach, it trained me to be a very analytical person. I look at things differently than maybe other people don't. I see opportunity places where other people might not see it. So I think I definitely gained a lot more skills than I guess I didn't even realize how much I kind of gained from a lot of
I'm
times.
glad
I, you
to
know, I,
help.
I, I kind of like live with this, like, I didn't do much in the military. So, and I don't really talk about my service time ever. Like, if you ever listen to anything that I've ever done, it's something that's like a side comment, maybe mentioned, maybe I don't even bring it up. It's not that I'm not proud of it. It's just I don't feel like I look at what my husband did in the Marines or what my brother's done. Like my brother has like bronze stars and stuff, and like I just don't feel like I guess maybe a little imposter syndrome there. Like I'm not
Yeah.
deserving of any type of recognition for what I've done. Um, and you just it's just a weird spot to be in, I guess.
Yeah. No, I 100% can identify with that too, because I felt the same for a long time. I think it took me, I don't know, maybe a decade, maybe a little less to kind of start to feel comfortable in my own skin and like who I was, and not just identifying with my service. But what's helped me personally is I had to think I'm a very, very, very small percentage of the entire population of the US that's ever served. If you
Hmm.
look at like the grand scheme of things too. And then you go and talk to those folks with the Bronze Stars, or even a Medal of Honor or something crazy like that. Somebody that's really been there on the front line, and even them, they're like, "Hey, thanks for your service." I just did the interview before this. Um, the guy was retired after 27 years and thanked me for my service. I'm like, man, like I appreciate that. Thank you. You stuck it out. I did 7 years active, but just knowing you had this small piece of the pie that you
Hmm.
serve. So I totally, totally identify with that. And I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would change much on your journey, but I know you had, twists and turns. You decided to go kind of different routes throughout education and owning your business. If you had somebody kind of on the same path, maybe
Hmm.
in the trades, thinking about starting their business or getting into education, do you think you have any piece of advice to somebody of, hey, don't do what I did kind of thing, or something that you could change?
Oh man, I don't know. Um, I guess for me, like, I guess if you're asking like kind of what my regret was
Hey, I try to say it a little nicer
yeah.
than regret, but yeah, I mean,
So I guess
anything
for
you could have done better, I guess is a good way to put it.
yeah, I guess it would have been focused a little more time on family. My daughter's nearly 16 years
Yeah.
old, and I had this mentality of I got to work, 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 work to support her, but I forgot about her. Not forgot about her, but like the focus wasn't there. It was about making money because the money was going to support her. Like the money wasn't what she needed. She needed me. And now I sold my company, the fab shop and the school, thinking like, oh, and I left AWS doing the tour stuff, and I'm like, here I am. Come hang out with me now. Let's do all this bonding time. And she's like, I have a life now. Like, I love you, but I can't hang out with you every day. So
Yeah.
that's, part of the reason I got a little bored quickly. And, and just, I guess really, just counting your blessings when it comes to the people that are in your life and enjoying that time with them and giving them the time and the attention they deserve too, I guess,
Yeah.
better work-life balance.
No, and full transparency, like within the last year is when that finally started to hit me because I was so hell bent on climbing the ladder,
Hmm.
and my oldest daughter's 10, and so I'm thinking, worst case or maybe best case, however you want to look at it, I've probably got 8 more years with her in the house if she decides not to move out when she's 18, or you know what I'm saying. But
Right.
that's not that much time. Like these 10 years, she just turned 10. At the time we're recording this, she turned 10 last week, and I'm like, where did this decade go? I mean, it was so fast. And so now I'm like, I'm pretty happy where I'm at financially, where I'm at in the industry. And if I don't get that promotion, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just really happy
Yeah.
I get to spend time with my wife and kids, and that's what's most important. So I
Yeah.
appreciate hearing that from somebody else too.
Yeah. It's tough, and then for me, it was always I felt like there was a lot of eyes on me at a lot of times, and it was like if I don't do the next thing, or like this pressure of like having to always like one up myself, and letting that kind of get in the way of what was really important, and that should have been
Yeah.
me me taking a couple days off here and there, but
Well, social media makes it a lot worse too. I mean,
yeah,
we're finding out now, obviously, a lot of these things that we see are not
not
what they
real.
seem. And
Yeah.
you're like, man, that guy I worked with, they got this promotion and they're doing awesome. Well, lo and behold, their family likes falling apart maybe
Yep.
behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I
we
mean,
don't
I live
see
that.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I live that. I'm me and my husband. Our marriage was going to shit fast because I was never home. My priorities were work first, family second, third. Who knows where on the list? And and social media really had a lot to do with that. And that the Netflix show probably almost like the final nail in the coffin for me with when it came to like the pressures of being something and being this person everybody was supposed to look up to. And when I sold the school and I was like, hey, when you sell this, when I said, do you want my social media too? Like I'll include that in this deal. And I tell everybody now, like that was the greatest. I would have took nothing for the business, just take that, because it's
So
been so
you
nice. I
sold
haven't.
it, like
Yeah, yeah,
you sold the social media with the school. Is that how it
yeah.
worked?
Yeah. So
Wow.
Jason runs my old pages and channels and stuff, and um, yeah, it's been awesome because now I have like a private account and I can post what I want. Because I mean, you'd post something and all you hear is just you hear the negative, you don't hear the positive, and then the positive, it's
Yeah.
so fake. It's like this posed picture of what I want everybody to see and content I want people to see, and it wasn't real life. It wasn't reality.
Yeah.
So
I'm not as popular as I wish I was, but I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to get some of the negative reviews. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right.
yeah,
I'm getting noticed.
yeah. Well,
So
and, the Netflix show even was we're 100 like 90 something countries it was in. And when you're like,
whoa,
oh, you're gonna 190 something countries and like translated into like 20 plus language, like 25, 27 languages or something like that.
that's
And
wild.
yeah, and you're like, oh wow, this is gonna be so great, this is gonna be awesome, the first woman to be on a platform as like a welding content expert. on a platform, a global platform. I'm thinking everybody and their mother is going to love to see this. And no, a lot of other countries do not appreciate a woman in industry. That's for sure. And
Oh yeah. It's a big
Instagram,
cultural thing.
yeah, and Instagram and all that stuff, they do this great thing where they translate things. So when you open it up, it says all these horribly mean things, and then these articles are getting written, and my daughter sees it, her friends see it, my mom sees it, and then like there was a time like on the when the show came out, and Ray, Ivan, all them, they're all my friends. And, they're like making posts defending me because people are like going on their stuff, commenting nasty things about how I'm, she's such a bitch and she's this, or she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I did feel like a fish out of water on that show. So I'll give people that, like I'm not a metal artist really by any means. I'm a pipe welder by trade, and I uh I felt super intimidated standing next to David, and then the power of editing, but people don't want to see that, and they don't want to hear it, and it was just really crappy. I always laugh because you watch the show or you watch some of my older stuff I did for AWS, and I always joke and I'll be like, "Oh, that was 2 faces ago," or "That was 3 faces ago," because it ruined my self esteem. And next thing you know, I'm like, I'm putting this crap in my face, doing this to my face, it just everything and anything just because it just crushes you, like, and it's all crap.
Yeah.
And it's just stuff that, like, you take it home with you, and then my husband's dealing with that because clearly you just don't deal with that by yourself, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't become a
I'm really
welder thinking that that was going to be my life, like
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't think
No, I'm
I was going to
sure.
be like the national spokesperson of the world's largest welding organization or on a Netflix show. Like I was just happy just welding some pipe here and there, and, and so
Well,
like definitely wasn't anticipating that. And I don't think like some people like I don't want to. I guess I'm not going to say people's names, but there are some people in my industry who all they want to be is famous, and all they want to do is create content and create an illusion of what they want people to think their life is. And that's something that I never wanted to do. And that's why I took the role with Miller, because now I don't have to create content for anybody. Like a lot of other companies that were reaching out to me, that's what they wanted me to do. And I'm so happy
yeah.
that I can just be utilized for my actual skill set and what I bring to the table on a more business, side of the fence. So happy about that.
Well,
A
heck
lot less
yeah. Good
pressure.
for you. Yeah, it's really refreshing hearing that. I mean, obviously I enjoyed the show, and for people that don't know, it's Metal Shop Masters. I enjoyed it. I was hooked on it. I really loved it, and like I shared with you before the show, like I started watching it, and it got me back on my welder. I thought it was really good, and I'm sure like you said, the magic of editing. There's a lot of stuff that people don't see,
Yeah.
but it's refreshing to hear somebody that's walked in your shoes to say that kind of stuff and kind of bring it to light. And I try to
Yeah.
do my best on this show. Like I told people, I'm sober now, but I was an alcoholic, or I guess technically I'm supposed to say I still am, but I am
Hmm.
sober. I dealt with mental health issues and went through a lot of junk, and my family life's not 100% perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
I have an amazing wife and kids, but like we're not perfect. We don't have it all put together.
Yeah.
And so I'm never going to pretend like I do. Now, do I take 20 photos to try to get the best shot of the job site? Yes, I'll admit that, because I want it to look cool. I want people to like
Yeah.
the job site,
Yeah.
but no, I appreciate you sharing all that. But maybe people that support just aren't as vocal as the
Yeah.
negative, because I've seen, I don't remember where it was at. It was, I think I Googled the show, and I was reading through these reviews. I'm like, these people are just jerks, man. I mean, I don't know. They have nothing better to do with their lives.
Yeah. It's
So
hard. It's hard to read that kind of stuff, especially when you went into it with this like really positive, oh, this is going to be so great. I can't wait,
yeah,
and then you're filming it and it's such a great experience during the filming of it, and then it comes out and you're like, this isn't the response I was expecting.
yeah. Well, and I'm
And
sure there's a
so,
lot of folks similar to me either got back into it,
mhm.
or you obviously spurred somebody's interest in getting into welding or
Yeah.
any kind of trade. So I'm sure it did
Yeah.
definitely some good out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard lots of positive stuff, but um, like they say, right? It's like you hear one negative comment takes 100 positives for it to like kind
Yeah.
of balance out. So, but I am very happy to not be a fixture on people's social media anymore.
Yeah. I bet. Well, good. So I'm going to kind of take, I don't want to say a dark turn, but
Mhm.
I want to talk about mental health real quick in the industry.
Mhm.
And we chatted a little bit about it. So the industry will burn you out real quick, especially in the
Mhm.
trades. I think more than anybody, trades and trade management, like it's really difficult, very long hours.
Mhm.
Then you get in a salary and you're not getting paid for all that OT, and it's tough. So mental health is a huge thing in the service. It's also a huge thing in our industry. So if you've got a unique perspective, if you have somebody in the trade that is just trudging along, like, I don't want to go to
Mhm.
work, this sucks, I'm done with all this, and feels like they don't have a way out, because I've been there too. What would you try to say to that individual to encourage them to just keep going or find something else?
Yeah, I think that's just it. It's, what are you going to do to get yourself out of this situation? Looking at it from, again, kind of a strategy perspective. Hey, what can I make it 6 more weeks here? If I can, what can I learn in that 6 week period that's going to set me up for a better position, a better role? Is it I got to take a 6 week night class? I got to take online LinkedIn courses. I got to get a resume builder person, on my side. What do I got to do? What do I got to do in that time period to better myself? And just kind of thinking at it like that, like taking a little bit more of a like segment your problem out a little bit, and kind of trying to strategize, how to get yourself out of there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough, especially when, like, I'll give you my example, because I got the kids and my wife, she doesn't work, so everybody's depending on me, and I've had those spots even recently where I'm just like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of hit a wall. But I think what I found and what I love about the industry is that, very similar to the service, I have all these people around me that are kind of
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the same crap. So it's like, hey, this sucks together.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of lean on them a little bit. And it's become a lot more acceptable, because it used to be this, shut up, keep your head down, and just
Yeah.
keep going. And I've seen it change in the service, and it's definitely starting to change in the industry within the last few years.
Yeah. But
We've
I
got,
also, you got people though who you say, I'll just using welding, right? So every time I pick up my phone, I have somebody pretending or somebody, telling me how great the welding industry is, yet my job sucks. It's like, well, that stuff getting constantly jammed down your throat of everything's so great and so perfect over there. Why isn't it perfect for me? So again, I think it kind of
yeah,
take look at that problem and kind of think, well, how can I make it better? Here's a timeline. In the next 6 weeks, what can I do to make it better? How can I get myself
yeah,
going in a direction that's more positive? Is it I got to put my phone down? I got to get off the internet? Do I got to take a go a little ghost for a little bit? What are those things that you can do to kind of help yourself get in a little bit more of a positive mindset to kind of move yourself forward?
yeah. I'll tell you, I got off Facebook a few years back, and that certainly helped. I mean, it sucks because I can't, like, stay in touch. We've lived all over the world,
Yeah.
and so it kind of stinks sometimes. My wife's still on there, so she can stay in touch with our friends.
Mhm.
But it was so toxic, and I'm not saying nobody should be on it. I think
Oh,
it's got
yeah,
its positives too.
for sure.
But when I put the phone down for a while, and I'm not on Instagram,
Mhm.
I'm not doing stuff even for the podcast, and, like, we get into this comparison wheel, and oh, this person's doing so great.
Yep,
Mentally,
exactly.
I feel
Yeah,
so much better. Like,
yeah,
I'm doing me. I'm happy.
yeah.
I
And,
don't.
like, I mean, for a while there, I just took it off my phone. So, like, if I was on a computer or something for a few
That's
minutes,
smart.
then I could go on Facebook and, but I mean, now I have it all back on my phone and I probably stare at it a little bit too much, but,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'd say definitely try and limit your time staring at other people's fake success or fake illusion of what they want you to see. It's,
yeah,
grass isn't always greener on the other side, I can assure you.
yeah. And I think one thing that was sort of freeing, even though it was terrifying getting out of the service, what was a little freeing for me is I kept telling myself, if this doesn't work out, I can leave. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not tied to a
exactly.
4 or 5 year contract. Like, I
Yep.
can find something better. It might just not be a fit for me at the time. And I bounced around a little bit, and I'm really happy where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Um, and I've helped, maybe I've never left for money, but that's, some people take that opportunity. They want more money,
Yeah.
or I want a better position, longer, runway for my career. So that's one thing I try to free people up with is, dude, what you're dealing with right now is going to suck today. Yeah. Maybe for the next few weeks, but I like your idea about the 6 week kind of roadmap. build your goal sheet, if you will, of, okay, to get where I want to go, I got to go through these steps.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I don't know where I learned that from. I think it was actually one of my MBA classes. And it was just like, how to manage people and how to get people who might not be, say, for like, this is like a change initiative. You can kind of look at it as, right? And, you're looking at a bunch of people who are not happy, not getting buy-in for whatever it is that you're trying to do differently. And it's like, okay, how do we break this down to get people there?
Yeah.
And you can take that kind of same approach with your own challenges, right? How can I break this down to get to where I want to be?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna wrap up our time here with one last question. I've taken up quite a bit of your time already, and I really appreciate it, Stephanie.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm very humbled that you responded back. I appreciate it. Um, you are like the queen of this because you did it for a long time, trying to get people in the industry. So if we have people that are transitioning out of the service, or anybody out there really, what would you say to them to try to get them into the industry? Maybe not welding specific, but anything within construction, fabrication, anything like that.
Um, Golly, I don't even know. I guess it's we we need bodies. We
Yeah,
need,
that's
you know,
true.
you got a lot of skills to offer. Like I said, there's a specific level of confidence, team building, leadership, that comes with coming out of the service that is very valuable to companies. A lot of people might not see the direct correlation and value that they can bring to some of these work environments, but trust me, it's there.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Stephanie. Thank you again.
Yeah,
This has been
thanks.
awesome. I've really enjoyed it.
And thank you. I'm happy you asked me to be on it. I haven't done a podcast in a while, so
Yeah, I'm
this
glad I
is
got to
fun.
shed a little light too on your service too. Like you said, you
Yeah.
don't really get to talk about it too much, so I'm glad we could do that.
Yeah, I think you're the first. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day. I appreciate it, Stephanie.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye.